End of season 3, we finally have access to this boss. This boss goes live tomorrow. We stream for 4 hours today. I already have that stream live right now if you want to check that out, but I'm going to go over all the details really quickly in this short video. This boss is not as strong as I originally thought. I thought it was going to be really hard to work around this buff prohibition, this healing reduction of 50%, and this shield prohibition. Now remember, shields are not a buff. So even if buff prohibition is here, you can always apply a shield before 24 seconds, and after the 10 seconds that this is applied, you can still throw a shield up later on. The biggest thing we have to worry about with this boss, and this is by far the biggest thing, you got to have somebody on your team at 30.5 seconds to give your team a buff. Because this guy's going to hit 4 times, knock back your ultimate gauge by 30% every hit, and you'll be zeroed out. Your ultimate gauge will be knocked all the way back. And this is the time where we're going to do a lot of damage to this boss, 200% additional damage. And so it's really easy at 30.5 seconds to have somebody, usually a support, to put up increased defense, get a heal over time, anything like that, as long as it's not an HP shield. HP shields, again, do not count as buffs. That's why we have this shield prohibition here. And I really don't care too much about this 50% reduction because I'm able to get 2 support on a lot of teams you're going to see in just a minute to where we make it to the complete time, all the way to the end of time. So then it's just bring in your strongest DPS, 3 of your strongest DPS. I think that's really good. Although I do think this boss still doesn't take a lot of damage. It's hard to do a lot of damage on this boss compared to season 1 end boss, season 2 end boss. But if we're all doing the same amount of damage, it's not going to matter. Obviously, if you have an exclusive hero, those are the ones with their own special artifacts. They're really hard to pull. Those heroes do more damage than anybody else. So yes, use them on your team. Use 2 support. The support is by far the most important thing we need to focus on. And no, we don't have to worry about removing this buff prohibition. He's going to strip 2 buffs from us and then put up buff prohibition on us. Don't need to worry about removing it. This, he's going to sit here and do heal reduction along with shield prohibition. Still don't need to worry about this either with the 2 support I'm going to show you for a lot of different teams. All these support, and there's so much more support. I'm not even trying to use the legendary support. The other moves that he has here is this. He's going to get 5% less damage taken every time you do a battle skill or an ultimate ability. That's fine. It goes up to 5%, 10%, 15%, 20%. It'll fall off every time he does an ability. So it's 6 seconds, it's going to clear, 12 seconds, 18 seconds, 24, and 30 seconds. That will all fall off. So right at 30 seconds, you want to get up your Witch's Remains, and then you want to hit with your hardest hitting person. This Rust Poison, you're going to notice that later on, further in the fight, you're taking more damage. And you're going to say, why am I taking more damage? This boss doesn't ramp up in damage. He's got nothing to make him do more damage. And he doesn't. But he's got this debuff. Every 20 stacks of this debuff, we take damage. And then we take more damage every single time. 20% more damage from this every 20 stacks. You can't block this. You can't resist this. This is a gold border. You're always going to have this happen every time the boss attacks you. So right here at 6 seconds, you're going to have 3 stacks. Then you're going to have 1 stack. Here, you're going to have 2 more stacks, but this one is the one that can give you even more stacks. So you kind of want to separate your people if you can. And I'm going to show you my teams. I'm going to show you the formations and show you how I separated them so they're not all next to each other. The more people you have clumped up, the more stacks of that Rust Poison that you can't stop from happening will be put on you. So you're going to hit that 20 mark more often, and you're going to take more damage and more damage over time. 25% more damage from that every time you hit 20 stacks. So that's why toward the end of the fight, you start taking a lot more damage. And then here, if you have your people grouped up, you're going to take that damage a lot sooner because they're going to have this, they're going to be hit. So it'll hit the center person and then it'll hit everybody around them. And that's another hit of damage from the boss, which means you get another one of those Rust Poisons on you. This again is really easy. I feel like this whole boss is really easy to circumvent all the things that he's doing right here with his buff prohibition, heal block, and shield prohibition. I just put up shields before this. I just make sure I get a buff here so my ultimate gauge doesn't get knocked down. There are a lot of people that can put buffs on our whole entire team. And then if I've got some healing or if I'm worried about this decreased defense, I just put decreased attack up when he does this decreased defense, and I still have not had issues yet. Right now, we've got Quarion in here giving us team-wide shields. He's on a 16-second cooldown for his ultimate. I've given him a little bit more skill haste here, a few skill haste on his runes. Nothing massive. He's at 43 skill haste, and we're able to bring that down to 15 seconds. Actually, I think at 38 or 39, we're at 15 seconds. Being that it's at 15 seconds, we can use it 2 times during a boss rotation. Now, I'm not using recharge speed penalty. We can't knock back this boss's ultimate gauge. It says that we can slow him down with recharge speed penalty, but then you would have to manual everything. I'm not trying to manual this boss for 8 minutes every single fight I do. When I did bring in Zarloth, he had 26 accuracy. We're not worried about his fear because we can't fear the boss, and I did not want him to apply recharge speed penalty, and it worked fine. If you apply recharge speed penalty, it'll be kind of nice because it takes the boss a long time to go through his rotation, but you're going to have to manual, and nobody wants to manual for 8 minutes. So right here, you can see I've got Quarion at 15.5 at 15 seconds. This means that at 30.5, he's going to be the one giving us a shield and making sure that we have a buff on and the boss doesn't knock back our ultimate gauge. We have him putting up shields at 14. That shield prohibition is not up yet, so it's easy to put up the shields there. We get heals at 15.5 and we get heals at 30.5 because Quarion is so fast. And then we have our decreased defense with Witch's Remains right here on Erich. He's going to hit at 27.5 before the boss takes a turn and clears off all those debuffs. You're going to see that happen. So when Erich hits, there might be a few 5% damage reduction up on the boss. But then right at 30, those are going to clear off. Total Nan's going to hit at 30.5. And Felicity, since Felicity has a passive to get her ultimate increase whenever we crit, she's going to be at 16 seconds and 15. So she's going to be right after Total Nan, but Felicity's going to get to do her ultimate 2 times because she gets that increase. Felicity's really, really good on this boss. We're going to do this really slow now that you know what's going to happen. This is all going to make sense. The boss is going to hit us right now for 3 hits. We're going to get 3 spore stacks. Here is the one, the 4th one, that if people are around us, we get additional spore stacks. You see 3? Now he's going to hit us for 1 hit. We're going to have 4 spore stacks plus decreased defense. But we're going to do shields to protect us from this. We're going to have shields up for this next hit that's going to strip buffs. Shields are not a buff, so it's going to take away any buffs we have and put buff prohibition. Here it goes. Hit, removed the buffs we had, put up buff prohibition. We can see it on our heroes right here. We've got decreased defense still. We have the spore stacks of 6 on everyone because this ability that we're about to go to is the one that if we have somebody next to us, we get an additional stack. So soon they're going to be at different stacks. And the timing for this, when it blows up at 20 stacks, it only hurts that one person. When it does damage at 20 stacks, you can't be ready for it. And you don't need to be ready for it. It's not a problem. We're going to go the full 8 minutes with just these 2 support. So now we're going to be hit. If anybody's next to someone, we're going to get additional stacks. We can see after Erich does his ability to get Witch's Remains up, Quarion has 9 stacks. The other 2 in the back have 8 stacks. And the 2 up front that aren't near anybody have 7 stacks. Now the boss is going to try to knock back our ultimate gauge many times, but we've got a buff up. Quarion's coming in there at 30.5 seconds. 1/2 second after the buff prohibition falls off. And we're going to get a heal then too. It's only 50% healing because we've got that 50% heal reduction on, but that's fine because now we're back around. We're going to get some shields up again. And the cycle repeats. We're going to get some healing again because Quarion's so fast. And then he'll be ready again to give us a buff when the boss does its ultimate so he doesn't zero out our ultimate gauge and we can get that 200% additional damage. So that's it. Like the most important thing, again, is a support that can give your team a buff. And then we can make it to the whole entire time as long as those support are strong enough to keep your team alive. And then any 3 DPS, like your strongest 3 DPS. Simple. I've got an Ice Blast team with Nord and with Shinna. We have Syphilis giving us a buff when the boss does its ultimate, and we have a lot of healing from Furbath, plus we do decrease attack when the boss does decrease defense. Not really necessary. I feel like we'd make it without it, but we go all the way to time. It's a lot of damage, even with Ice Blast, and we tried out Emperor set on everyone first, and then we tried the Aerial set. The Aerial set does more damage, so use the Aerial set. I didn't test any of the other sets out, so if you find out any information, let us know down below in the comments. So right now we've got Furbath here. We've got our other DPS spread out so they don't get as many spore stacks. She's going to get the most, but it's okay. She's pretty tanky. And then we've got Bledin in the back. And this way, Furbath can heal these 2 and these 2 as well. She's going to heal everybody with her battle skill. And then right here on her ultimate, she's going to get the increased defense. So we're going to play it the same exact way. Again, all we need is 2 awesome support. And I'm only using epic support. I haven't used any legendary support yet. And there's a lot of strong legendary support out there. So if you have them, definitely use them. Right there, Furbat did decrease attack. We're coming up to the mark to where we all get hit some extra if you're next to each other. Now the boss is going to try to knock back our ultimate gauge so that we can't hit him for more damage, and we get out of rotation too. We got increased defense on everyone, and that's it. Bledding comes in there to do decrease, Witches Remains, decrease defense. Actually, no, Shinna did on this team. And then everybody hit. Yeah, you're going to get up that buff to the boss. It's going to get up many times. He's going to take 15% less damage like he is right now, and then it drops off. Whenever it goes to one of his skills, it drops off. He's taking 15% less damage right now, but right now he's taking full damage. It dropped off. We smack him. Girth got full attack power on that. Shinna already put up the decreased defense before that happened, and then after Girthin, Bledding hit with maybe 5% less damage taken or maybe 10% less damage taken. But you see the cycle, right? It's not hard. It's not hard, and we're not trying to mess with buff prohibition, him removing our buffs, and then this one here where he's doing heal prohibition and then shield prohibition. 14.5, so he does this right before we get hit with decreased defense every 30 seconds. She's at 30.5, like we need anybody who's going to buff our team, 30.5 always, or if you're going to do 15 seconds like my Quarion, it's 15.5 seconds and then 15 seconds. 15.5 here, 15 seconds. Here we're just attacking after Girth. She's attacking early because she channels. So she's hitting multiple times on her ultimate, trying to get Witches Remains up, that decreased defense. And then once he clears at 30 seconds, she's going to come in at 30.5, hit for max damage. He's going to hit after her, usually at a 5% loss or a 10% loss. Again, you don't need to worry about the damage dealers I'm using. It's all about the 2 support. Do you have Garius? Do you have Catherine? If you do, and you set them up like this, because she needs to be in a cross section for her ultimate so that she can get a buff up on everybody. Garius, it doesn't matter where he is, honestly. So he could be... No, there's good. We don't really need a tank either. There's no tank. There's nobody taking single target damage from the boss. The boss only does AoE moves. So having somebody, like say if I change it like this is fine. This makes no difference, even though Hubberg's there. The reason why I don't want Hubberg there is because Garius is tankier. These 2 are going to get more spore stacks than the rest. And as their spore stacks build up and get to 20, they're going to slowly start taking more damage than other people. So I'd rather them build up faster because she's got, defense percentage gloves on. He's got a lot of defense, and then she's got a few more, like 1 defense over here on the side. So she's much tankier. The way this team works is we've got Garius giving us shields. I can't remember it exactly when, but it's going to be... Okay, right there, he's going to give us shields with healing. So we're not taking damage from this ability. This is where he strips our buffs, but shields aren't a buff. This is where he does buff prohibition and the rest and hits us. But now we need a buff up so we don't get our ultimate gauge knocked back. So we're getting healing from Catherine. It's at 50% less healing, but that's fine. 50% less healing along with that buff that we need on our team so we don't get our ultimate gauge knocked back. And that's the cycle we do. We make it all the way. Now, Garius does have the staff on. Gatekeeper staff to give us these massive shields that you can see whenever we do his healing. Right? The overhealing goes to shields. So it's a little different with that. I should actually play it without the staff. That would be much more free-to-play friendly on this. And the timing on this one is pretty easy. We're just doing 14:30, and then her, of course, 30.5. This is great for Dauntless, but when I went to Necrosis, I just did not have a lot of support for Necrosis, so we're going to have to work out for some teams for that. Tomorrow, I'll be streaming. As soon as this goes live at 9 a.m. my time, I'll be ready to make my 6 teams on the live server. So I'll be streaming and making all my 6 teams because we got to play test this barely a day before this goes live. Now we've got Nathaniel along with Estella, and I got to make sure that they're all together. Since I have 2 melee, it's going to be the whole row, 3 here, and then 1 for the cross-section ability. Like this ability, see how it is? And then this ability to get recovery over time and remove a debuff. But we're not even worried about dispelling a debuff. This one, we're going to play it as 30.5 for Nathaniel so that he can get up defense just to have a buff on us. And then her, she's going to start healing us at 14.5 right before we get that decreased defense. But Estella channels that heal for a while, so it kind of heals us from that hit and then the next hit. And then here you can see that we're going to do Shaltar at 30. We're going to do decreased defense with Sutha at 30.5. And then he's going to fly in Nimbus and hit after that. We need 230 accuracy because we're getting 50 accuracy from our elemental affinity, and then we're getting additional accuracy for the otherworld bonus. So 230 on anybody that you want to land debuffs. This is when the boss is supposed to do his ability: 6 seconds, 12 seconds, 18, 24, and 30. These are not when he does the ability. This is right before it. So he kind of does his ability at 31, 15, 8, and then 19. So this is when you would put your skill timing to do it right before the boss. Emperor set was not pulling in as much damage when we changed over to Ariel. We had a team right here with Shinna, Siphoris, Girth, Bledin, and Furbath. You can see that we gained 11 million from changing over to that. Then we used a team right here for 47 million, 56 million, and 52 million. And these are the support we're using. Garius with Staff, Catherine, Furbath with Siphoris, Adolphus with Quarion, and then Estella with Nathaniel. Now, when I was trying to make a Necrosis team, Summons kind of sucked because Summons ran forward, got those poison stacks on, but when the boss does its fourth ability and puts additional poison stacks anybody around them, they were doing a lot of additional poison stacks. So they're not the worst in the world, but it's not good to have people up there close to where all the summons are, but we don't have a lot of room, so it happens a lot. And then the support I was using with Thea, she wasn't working out well. Then I had Megan. I don't have Tauren. I do have Gulen. Galadris, this guy that can do shields, might work out pretty well, and the decreased attack that he does will work out pretty well. It's all based off of his attack, so I need to test him out. Zarloth was doing fine, but that's really it for support. So it's hard to play Lightning and Necrosis once I've used Estella and Nathan. I just don't know. I'm going to have to use my legendary. I'm going to have to use Gulen. I'll try out this other epic right here. We'll do that tomorrow on stream, and I'll get new videos out to you guys on what my teams are and what I'm using and what's really working. But sometimes it's going to be hard for you. But for fire, I have Sonaro. I've got a lot of other support. I mean, there's plenty other legendary support if you have it that can help you out. I'm talking about people that can heal you, people that can shield you, and you might even have to be forced to do additional teams with Radiant, which for me wouldn't be bad. I can do a rally team with Radiant, and I can do an aura team with Radiant because Radiant has so much healing support and people that can apply a buff at that 30.5 mark, 30.5 second mark that we need. So I'll be making 2 teams. She can help out, but I don't know. I don't want to play her with this recharge speed penalty. That will just make it to where I have to manual the fight. Obviously, Asilia is going to be amazing on this fight. We've got Mithracy will be amazing for healing and then getting up some buffs when the boss does its ultimate. Same thing with her. Any way you want to play her because she'll remove debuffs, block debuffs, give your team healing, and give you a buff. So if you want to make sure she does her ultimate at 30.5, you can do that too. Ardrith will be fine with anyone for some additional healing if you can get some big fat healing, but I feel like we need more healing. But Ardrith, we can get down to 15 seconds and utilize her 2 times during the whole entire boss fight. Obviously, we've got awesome with Garius, awesome with Catherine, and even Meredith would be good, but she doesn't give us a buff. Unfortunately, there's no buff here to really take care of getting that buff. But we could have somebody else get us that buff at 30.5 and then use Meredith for some additional healing. But there's plenty of other options. Decreased attack really hasn't been a big deal. You can see I only used 1 team with decreased attack. There's no decreased attack on this team. We went all the way. No decreased attack on this team. And there was no decreased attack on this team. There is decreased attack with Furbath here, but Furbath's amazing, right? Just an amazing guy. So since there's so much support in Radiant, I think that might be the way I need to go because Fire doesn't have a lot of support for us. Even if you have other legendaries, I was going to try to bring in Elminster, but we can't get this control immunity to line up to 30.5 seconds because we need it to last for 5 seconds while he's trying to knock back our ultimate gauge. No way to do that. We could use him for some shields and decrease attack. So I'm not saying you can't use him, but I couldn't use him for what I wanted to use him for. I needed somebody, another support that could give everybody a buff at that time. And I didn't bring him in there. And I don't know if everybody has him. Again, I was trying to use non-legendary support. So there you have it. You guys let me know the teams you're using down below. Join me over in Discord. We've got a channel set up for this boss, and we're going to be talking about this boss every single day. Again, I'll be streaming this boss probably for another 4 hours tomorrow while I set up my 6 teams because I'm sure it's going to take a little while. But thanks so much for watching, guys. Let me know your thoughts on this down below. I will see you all in a video soon.